when I got the opportunity in that one, when they said, would you like to be considered for the job? I didn't hesitate. I said, yes. Yeah, I do. And I didn't know where it was going to go. And I certainly didn't know it was my first time doing it. So it's not like I had the answers. But I really encourage that when somebody says, hey, if this kind of looks like something, jump at it, say yes, say yes. Never say no to something. You can always figure out how to manage it. But I have consistently said yes in my career. And sometimes, others might say, well, did you waste your time at that? I have never thought I've ever wasted my time doing anything. It's always led to something, but it's because we don't control the outcomes. We control how we show up every day, right? And that's been my mantra and continues to be my mantra.
Hello, Allison. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Hey, Jeff, great to be here.
We're looking forward to it, Allison.
So, Allison, from what I've seen, you had quite the varied career, and one thing that stands out is your willingness to lean into opportunity. So, how have you approached taking risks at different stages in your career?
Jeff, I appreciate the question, and I would love to share a little bit about my story. I've had a very windy path getting into commercial real estate, and I think it's something that students can relate with and hopefully give them a little bit of comfort. But when I was early in my career, I actually got my degree in nutrition and dietetics, and that totally set me up for a career in commercial real estate, right? But I graduated and I thought I was going to be a dietitian. So I start down that path for a moment and I realized that I just didn't really love it. And I had read this book in college called Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow. And it had kind of a rainbow cover. I'll never forget it. And it was kind of a cheesy book, but the message, the title says it all. And I have thought about that for my entire career is if I'm doing something I really enjoy, the other stuff will solve itself. So that has been my North Star. So I get out of the dietetics business per se, and I end up becoming a Delta flight attendant. So the only reason I did that was because I was looking for independence and I wanted to be on my own and I wanted to have, a career of some sort. So I start doing that, and that leads me to um, a move to Salt Lake City, Utah. So I had no idea where this was going or where my life would take me, but I kept doing the next thing. What I didn't realize about myself is how entrepreneurial I really was. And so while I was flying with Delta, one of the wonderful things about that job was you have a ton of time off. So in my time off, I used it. I got my real estate license. That was the first thing I did. I didn't know exactly where it was going to lead me, but I knew it was a good thing to get. A lot of my friends were doing it. And get my real estate license. And then I decided to open a small property management company. So I run this little property management company focused on like duplexes and triplexes and things like that. I absolutely discovered that I am not a property manager. I'm not good at it. I don't know. I'm not handy, but I learned a lot about how to run a small business. And so I did that for a few years while I was still flying. And I started developing different skills within myself. Well, then I got all my financial planning licenses because I thought, well, maybe I want to do that. So I got the series, the life insurance and the Series 6 and the 63 and the 65, all those things. Um, and I get affiliated with a broker dealer. I start kind of down that path. I realize I'm not passionate about that at all. There was nothing about that brought me a lot of joy, though it was a great education. Um, so all of this to say, I'm still flying at this point in time, and I'm getting tired of flying because I hated being away all the time and I wanted like a career, right? Like where I was home and could work maybe Monday through Friday. I had nothing, I knew nothing about commercial real estate. I had no idea what it was. But I had a friend who said, have you ever thought about brokerage? And I started looking around like commercial brokerage because I was never interested in residential. And I realized that I had been observing the built environment my entire life. I loved it. Like, candidly, in another lifetime, I probably should have been an urban planner. That's really my passion. So I end up getting affiliated with Cushman and Wakefield, which was the firm in Salt Lake City that I really wanted to be at. And I had no idea that it meant that I'd have to be in full commission work. So going from the safety and security of Delta Airlines, right, where I knew what my paychecks were going to look like, to jumping off the end of the diving board and getting into brokerage, which was commission only at the time. And I, 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 I did that. I ended up working for Delta for a good 3 or 5 months while I transitioned into brokerage, and then decided to take the plunge and quit Delta altogether. My first year in the brokerage business, I made $6,000, but I knew I was going to be so good at it. I knew it. It was the first time in my life where I felt like a fish to water. It was so easy. And I don't mean easy like, it's hard. You're learning new things, but it felt good. And right after that, the next 3 years, I had great earning years, which set me up for, kind of a good foundation when the great financial crisis happened. Um, but I think about that very early, moment in my life and in my 20s when I really didn't know where things were going. And it's so easy to get pigeonholed into one thing or think that maybe because you got your degree in one thing, that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And it really was about the combination of finding what lit me up. And that's people, it's connecting, and it's bringing together my analytical side, right? And all of that, which got me into the brokerage.
So Kai is at the early age, start of her career, and you and I are much further advanced down the road in it. And each of us have different pivots. But is there a point that you knew when it was time to make a change?
Yeah. Well, an interesting thing, and a friend had to point this out to me. So I was about 7 years in my career as a broker, and we were at a leadership event together. I was involved with CREW Network. CREW had become very central in my business network. And she and I were at this leadership event, and I was talking about bringing on team members and hiring people. And I don't remember doing this, but she was like, "You were thinking so far ahead." Like yeah, because I guess I knew that in order for me to scale or in order for my business to become the next thing, I was going to have to take that next leap, and that meant bringing in more people, which also meant letting go of a lot of like control, because you can't have all of it, right? Like when you bring in more people to help you and create teams, you have to also create that environment that they're going to succeed. So I learned a lot. The first few folks that came on board, they weren't the right fits, but they were great professionals, just not for my team. And so it took a little while to get to that right, recipe mix. And then it was after I had served, so all the while I was building my brokerage practice and having a lot of success there, I was building my business network, and I realized through my leadership experiences at CREW Network, I had now been serving on the global board of directors for CREW, which was just crazy talk from where I started. I never thought I would ever even serve on a board of directors. I didn't think about that kind of stuff when I was early in my career, and here I was leading this organization. And after I wrapped up that experience, I started thinking, how could I really leverage these leadership skills in a different way in the commercial real estate industry? And that got really uncomfortable for me because I don't know about you all, but I'm not patient, especially when I think like there's a decision that I want to make or like that there's something else out there that I want to be thinking about. I just kind of assumed I would get into a leadership role right away. And it just didn't happen that way. And I remember getting this advice from a lot of different professionals and colleagues and people I trusted, just saying, keep talking to people, keep circulating these ideas about that you want to be in executive leadership, And I'm like, really? I'm just talking to people, right? But it was certainly that way because one conversation led to another. I kept learning, they kept learning, right? And over time, the right thing emerged. And it ended up being that I took over the firm that I had, as the market leader, that I had been brought up in as a commercial real estate broker. So that was, and when I got the opportunity on that one, when they said, would you like to be considered for the job? I didn't hesitate. I said, yes. Yeah, I do. And I didn't know where it was going to go. And I certainly didn't know it was my first time doing it. So it's not like I had the answers, but I really encourage that when somebody says, hey, if this kind of looks like something, jump at it, say yes, never say no to something. You can always figure out how to manage it. but I have consistently said yes in my career. And sometimes, others might say, well, did you waste your time at that? I have never thought I've ever wasted my time doing anything. It's always led to something, but it's because we don't control the outcomes. We control how we show up every day, right? And that's been my mantra and continues to be my mantra.
That's great. That's awesome. Kind of leads us into our next question. And could you expand on how you and your career balance planning for the future while also not maybe dismissing the great opportunities that were in front of you?
Yeah, that I really like that. That's really a good one to reflect upon, right? Because it's easy. Actually, I have found it very overwhelming to try to plan out my future. And it's funny because I still think I'm a kid some days. And then I look around, I'm like, oh, right, okay, yeah, I'm actually, I've got a career here that, so it's funny how we kind of think about where we're going to be. I could never have imagined have a title of CEO right now and be leading an organization that was so pivotal to helping me as an early, broker and then throughout my career to think that I'm in this seat today. But I will say that it is important to pay attention to the thoughts that you have, like the thoughts that conjure up. If you have an inkling of like, gosh, I wonder what it'd be like to be in leadership, you need to pay attention to that. And I think that's what I've kind of done is I paid attention to it, but I didn't let it distract me from doing the present work because the present work is where you see where the opportunities actually hit for you. So for instance, I had an occasion when I had just been elected to the board of directors of CREW Network. That's all a volunteer capacity. I'm in my brokerage business, and I had a very good relationship with my CEO at the time, or market leader. And he and I would talk about things. He was a wonderful sponsor of mine. So I really trusted him. And when I got this opportunity on the board of directors, I went and talked with him about his support, because I wanted to make sure because I'd be traveling a lot and there would be like maybe some distractions to my business, in those years that I was going to be serving on the board. And I wanted to make sure he was supportive. And he said, he was very supportive. He gave me some of the best advice I ever got in my career, which was when you're going and traveling to all these other, locations and such markets, make sure and make a point to go into the office at every location and meet the people there. It will take more time from your travels and it probably cost you more money, but you will never ever regret that. And I will introduce you to everyone in those markets. And so I did that. I'm a good listener and I take direction well. So I did that and I've never regretted it because those were foundational business networks that were able to create those relationships early on that have still served me. These are people I still run into, in the industry to this day. What that conversation with my CEO at that point in time was really critical because he now saw me in a different way. He saw me as a leader. And then what happened was I found myself being promoted into like more challenging assignments and projects that were coming into the firm. He was thinking about me, right? I was on his radar. That is so important in our businesses because if you're not positioning yourself like that and being seen, it's going to be really hard for you to figure out how you differentiate. And so what happened though was this, he asked if I could take on this challenging assignment, and I had never done anything quite of this. It was like an 80,000 square foot build to suit, and I was going to work with a partner out of New Jersey, and we were going to work on it together, and I was going to run the boots on the ground in the local market. And I said to him, yes, absolutely, I can handle it. And the next thing I did, I brought in all the right people to help me handle it because I knew how important that was to get it right. And I didn't know all the answers, but I knew how I could assemble a team. So having the humility and also knowing like that was the work I had to do in front of me. I didn't worry about the outcome. I didn't worry about, how that was. If I did well, then that was going to be so great for my resume. Sure, if I did well, it would be great for my resume, but I needed to do the work right in front of me. And by doing that and really taking the care, we satisfied the client. Obviously it worked out well. I made great relationships and I got more work from it, which led me to more things.
That's wonderful. Could you share a bit more with us about your background and how you kind of really got started in the industry and where like that entry point was for you?
hmm Well, I shared a little bit, earlier about just the leap from Delta Airlines, right, into and all the other things that I did along the way to get into my first part of brokerage. Um, and I would say like the next phase, I like to share the experience about how I transitioned from my brokerage career into managing principal, because that is quite a different um, it's two different jobs. And it's funny because I went from all commission based work at this point in time, 14 years into my career, now getting used to that, to then going into the salary role with a bonus, which I will tell you, I worked a heck of a lot harder in the salary and bonus model than I did in the commission model. And I worked hard in both, but it is funny how, it's not like the motivation wasn't money either way. The but getting into that managing principal role, it was interesting because when I actually interviewed for it 3 times at 3 different points of time. Back in like 2015, I was a second year board member in CREW Network. And I started having these ideas about leadership, right? And I thought, well, I'm ready to take on a leadership role. I think I could do this at this point in time. And the management principal role was changing over, and they were asking for interviews, and I was encouraged to apply for it. So that's great. My HR director encouraged me. So I do the interview. The interview was a panel interview with all of my peers plus the C-suite. So it was a pretty intimidating group of people. Um, and I walked through the process. I didn't end up getting selected. They selected my counterpart. Uh, the feedback I got was, yeah, I think you just need 5 years. Boy, when I got that feedback, whew, I will tell you, I was like, they don't know me, It's like I don't need 5 years. But they weren't wrong that I didn't have the experience yet. I hadn't flushed out my ideas probably to the degree that I should have, but I didn't know any different, right? So it was a great opportunity for me. The positive that came out, there were so many positives. The positive that came out, one of them was that all of my peers now saw me in a new light. They all saw me as somebody as a leader, right? Even if I didn't get the role. So there's no downside there. And then the other thing that happened was 3 months later, I got nominated for the CREW Network president-elect role, which what that means is if you do dare to accept the nomination, you then have to go through this grueling interview process, followed by an in-person interview with 10 people. This was in Houston, Texas. So sure enough, 3 months later, I am on a plane to Houston and I'm interviewing for the president-elect role. But guess what? I had just had this same experience 3 months earlier in front of a panel interview. So I was better prepared, right? And I knew my content and I knew exactly what I could do with, how I was going to help the CREW organization. And so then the rest is history. I go through that experience and I'm a different leader when I come out the other side of it. All the while, my business is flourishing and I I'm at the tail end of my leadership journey or leadership, experience at CREW, and the position comes up again. I apply for it, and the leader says, "You're just so busy right now." Because he was right. I was not. I did not have the bandwidth. I was still on the CREW board, and it just would have been too much. Wrong timing. 1 year goes by. The person that they had selected, it didn't work out with them. They come to me and they said, "What do your name came up 12 times today." And then I didn't hesitate. I said, "Yes, I want it. I'm ready." And that's how I got into that role. So I think, maybe some people would say that maybe that's humility, maybe it's willingness, maybe it's just yeah, I just went with the first thing in front of me. I kept doing the work. I was a completely different leader. They weren't wrong. Maybe it wasn't a full 5 years, but it was maybe 3.5 or 4, right? But I was a much better leader and a different leader when they hired me. So you never know, like there is a reason. And I would say even most recently now in this last pivot, because it's all about, no matter what age stage of career you're in, you're always going to have these different career progressions. And this last time around, I wasn't looking to move to become the CEO of CREW Network. I was very happy. I was running the region here, and at Cushman and Wakefield in the Pacific Northwest, and and we're doing great. We're doing great work. And but I had been encouraged. I was part of an executive leadership program at my company, and they were, I was getting coached for eventually what those next roles would look like at some point in time. And I remember just thinking about all that and having a 360 review and having my executive coach and looking at different opportunities and talking with different leaders. And there's, all kinds of positive things happening, but nothing was like coming up. Nothing was like gelling. And I thought, and I kept going, well, that's because I have a lot of work to do here. Okay. So that's what it is. And then when the role was the CEO role for CREW came up, this was one that I said, I have to put my hat in the ring, because if it's the right thing, they will choose the right leader at the right time. You have to believe that. And yeah, but I would not be the leader I am today without this organization. And so I had to put myself out there for that reason. And now to be doing this work, sitting in a new seat 4 months into it, I'm skipping to work. It's a wonderful thing. I'm very much going with my grain. And it was exactly the right timing for me and for the organization. So I think these things have a tendency of working out. And I will tell you, back to the book, do what you love and the money will follow. It's still true. It all worked out. It always works out if you
Absolutely.
follow that North Star.
That's great. Could you tell us a bit more about how you first got connected with the Runstead department and then just like real estate community in general, how you grew your network? I know you touched on that a bit earlier, but just kind of like a bit more on that.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. So I moved to Seattle right during the middle of the pandemic, January of 2021. And, if you think about it, well, I didn't know a soul up here, I wasn't connected to the real estate community up here. I didn't know the market. And if it's very rare for commercial real estate professionals to move markets, because it's challenging to start over to learn a whole new market. So I moved up here, and my first connection points were CREW Seattle. No surprise there. But CREW Seattle really helped me orient to who the market leaders were that I needed to meet. They made personal introductions on my behalf. They really helped me kind of navigate some of that. Some of my early connections were with board members of the Runstead Advisory Board helping me. So talk about true community impact. I mean, these leaders, just welcomed me with open arms and said, how can we help? We'd like to get you involved. That was incredibly just warm and generous on their behalf. And I've always been such a learner and such obviously a proponent of giving back and helping the next generation. So it was very much my wheelhouse to get involved with the UW Runstead board. But that's kind of how it started out. And I've always been very encouraging of getting our people there. We Cushman and Wakefield hat. We were really proud to have several students, graduate from the program and come and intern with us over the years, and that was something that I was really proud of, because that's how you have to actually roll up your sleeves and make it happen and bring people into your organization if you want to make change. And yeah, so
Yeah,
it was pretty cool, the way that kind of worked out, and I really enjoyed my time on the board.
great. Now focusing more on your current position, what do you do day to day? What does a regular day look like for you? Um, and just kind of expand on your current position
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to. So, as the CEO of CREW Network, I manage a membership is just over 14,000 people. We're a global organization. We have 85 chapters located across the US, Canada, and Europe. And so my role is to run and to strategize and guide work with the board of directors on the strategic direction of the organization. It's a federation model, so each one of our chapters is independently run and organized, but they all feed up into the parent organization, CREW Network. We're all very closely aligned. I find my days are are a whole host of different activities. When I'm not traveling, I'm talking with board members, I'm talking with crew members, I'm talking with my staff. I've got a staff of 34 people. Half of them sit in the Lawrence, Kansas headquarters office, and the rest of us are distributed in different places across the United States. And we host several in-person events throughout the year. So we just had our big annual convention. This year it was in Austin, Texas. Next year it will be in Miami, Florida. And we bring together 1,500 professionals, of all across all disciplines within commercial real estate for a few days of just phenomenal speakers and inspirational speakers and just all topics of commercial real estate. So we do that, and then we offer leadership training and president-elect training and different trainings throughout the year. So I attend all of those. I also find myself doing chapter visits and different outreach visits, and also attend and speak on behalf of the organization at different industry conferences. So as you can imagine, as I'm getting kind of oriented as well into my new role, I will be on the road quite a bit, for the next year or so, doing those various activities.
That's great, and love having you on, and I love having kind of the next generation. Kaya is going to be one of those next generation people I can see her getting in leadership roles, whether it's in CREW or other parts of the industry. But I always like to ask a guest, like if you had just one piece of advice you could share with a young person getting into it or a mid-career person, if you had one piece of advice to someone, what would you share with them?
Well, that's great, Jeff. I appreciate that. And Kaya, I'm excited for where life is going to take you and where your career is going to take you. I would encourage you, trust your instincts. Don't overthink it. If you make the call, right? Whenever you have that moment when you're like, should I do it? Do it. Don't hesitate. You will never look back on something like that. It's just, I would wear that one proudly.
Thank you. That's great advice. And yeah, do you have any favorite books? I know you did mention the one book that kind of like helped you pivot in your career. So could you share with us what that book is, or if you have any podcasts or any other things that you would recommend anybody getting into the industry or that's already in the industry to read?
Oh yeah, sure, Kaya. Yeah, there is I have a book a career book that I always come back to, but I love Carla Harris. I'm a Carla Harris just fan. But one of her first books is called Expect to Win. That's my go-to. She's got a section in there about performance currency and relationship currency. And I really encourage anyone early in their career, check that book out. It really shaped how I thought about my relationships and how I was going to position myself. When I'm not thinking about commercial real estate or doing it, I'm super into outdoor adventure. So Pacific Northwest is great for that. But we're big hikers, very avid hikers, hiked all over the world. Most recently, we did Machu Picchu in the Pyrenees last year, Mont Blanc, the TMB, the Patagonia, the W, and so lots of different places like that. That's my happy place. So I'm excited to get more up into the North Cascades, actually, right in our own backyard, and do some. And obviously, I'd love to do Rainier at some point in time. But I have found though in my daily life, like I've actually got into this ritual of walking every day, and I try to at least get out at least once, but sometimes twice, and just clear my head. And sometimes I'll use it to actually catch up and talk with friends or people, like that, or do my work while I'm walking. But that really does kind of give me that clarity I need. Since sitting, when you're in the seat I'm in, the most important thing you can do is come ready with decisions, or ready to listen, ready, and have those to be in a calm space for that, so you can offer your team what they need in that moment. So that helps me get there.
So, as a student at the university, we've got to connect with CREW on some of our panels with the real estate club. And I know that there are other opportunities with you guys for some scholarships. So, Alison, could you just expand on what those opportunities are and how students could connect with you on that?
Yes, Kaya, we have the CREW Network Foundation is committed to advancing students at both the undergraduate and graduate level through scholarship programs. So we actually offer scholarship every year. It's in the spring season. So we can certainly get you information on that and for you to blast out to your UW colleagues on how they can apply for it. But we have undergraduate and graduate level programs or scholarships available. As part of those scholarship award winners, they also get a membership to CREW, and they also get an opportunity to come to the convention in Miami. And they are put into a mentoring group with all the other scholarship awardees. Last year, we had 45 scholars on stage at the convention. It was a wonderful sight to behold, and we have impacted over, I think it's roughly over 300 scholars already, just with this program that we've launched. So certainly encourage you and your colleagues to check it out. We can get you more information there, but all the information is on the CREW Network website.
So if people want to connect with you or learn more about you or CREW, Alison, what's the best way for them to do so?
Oh, Jeff, I love that question. Yes, LinkedIn is a great place to find me, and our website is crewNetwork.org. So please, I would love to check it out. Lots of information available on the website.
Well, that's wonderful. Thanks so much for coming on today, sharing your information about CREW, about yourself. I love the adventures and your discussion about taking risks at different times in your life. Obviously, the three of us are in different stages. We all were in Kaya's position before, and that you get to share this with her and the other students in her class. So thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so great to just hear your advice and hear how kind of like you got into the industry from such a kind of diverse background. And it was just great to chat with you. And yeah,
Thank you, Kaya. Best wishes in your career.
thank you so much.